Here, we just don't start from zero.
Plan how we think this new normal is going to be, so that's the next zero, like how we dealing with this thing that looks like it has, no ending.
It's a complete start over, and there is something invigorating and exciting. Almost, it's like you said, it's almost like you're wiping the slate clean and starting over, but you're not, because you're coming with all of your tools.
The zero thing, I love the zero thing because it's truly energy. It's all there.
From Another Zero is a podcast dedicated to the arts and the entertainment industry. Welcome to our safe space, and welcome to this episode. I am Alejandra Enciso Dardashti. Here we go.
Hi, we are live with a few internet glitches. Let's hope everything goes perfectly smooth. Sammy, Samantha, let me not chop your name, okay? Samantha Bauman-Martin. Is that
yes, right? Bauman, but it's
Bauman-Martin.
Great job.
It is the first episode of the second season of From Another Zero. Thank you for being here and taking the time and everything. And also, it's the first episode that we record live.
Awesome.
Yay. So we'll make it work.
Yay.
It doesn't matter. We'll make it work. So it's been a very hard year and a half, like for practically everybody, but for the performing arts, for people who work in the entertainment industry, it's been harder. So tell me what has been up with you. What is up? What are you doing?
I have been working through the imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Because I have been actively working since September, when although I did go through the solid about 4 or 5 months of no work. Mm-hmm. It was mid-March, and all the emails and the texts and the phone calls came in canceling this, that, and everything. And I stuck it out for a few weeks before it started to hit me that things might not be back for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky, however, because I started working with a company full-time in September as their resident stage manager and as an associate producer for them. But there's definitely some imposter syndrome because a lot of folks that I know and that I've worked with in the theater industry are still not working. Mm-hmm. And it's just been a devastating year for theater, and I can't wait to get back into it in whichever way, even if I'm just an audience member.
Yeah, that's true, right? You're like, it doesn't even matter anymore, just so I can see something,
I just want to see it. I just want to know it's alive again.
Mm-hmm. But why do you feel bad? You feel bad because you're working and other people aren't? Is that what it is?
Oh, I guess I don't feel bad. It's just this kind of weird feeling like I went, that saying feast or famine, mm-hmm. and I went from famine to feast really quickly, and I'm so lucky and so happy to be where I'm at. I just wish everybody else was working too. But we're coming back. And live events with audiences are starting to come back as more people get vaccinated. So more people are working, which is great.
Hey, there's even a lottery now for you to get vaccinated.
Right? I know. I'm like, wait, should I have waited?
We should have
been paid.
But yeah, that's what they want to do. So for people that don't know, like we titled this episode, Those Angels We Call Stage Managers, because it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal. It's a big role. It's like the vertebrae of any show or thing that you're doing. But for people that are not familiar, what does the stage manager do?
So there's, in traditional theater, there's a production stage manager, and then there are assistant stage managers and production assistants and other members of the stage management team. The production stage manager really owns the master production schedule, sort of with the production management team, and executes that schedule. They run all of the rehearsals with the actors and the director, and they're sort of the core of the creative team, and linking the production team. So they know the crew, they know all of the heads of department, they know all the designers, they know the directors, and they know the actors, and they sort of sync everybody together. They're in the rehearsal room actively every single day, setting up, taking blocking notes, etc. And then the show goes into tech, and the production stage manager works with the designers and the director to put all the lighting cues and sound cues and automation cues, etc., into a script and make it runnable and make it a show that can be called, so that by the time the show opens, there is a clear version of the show written in a big book that the stage manager has created. They also run the show 8 shows a week and interface with everybody throughout and solve problems and are there to the rescue when things go wrong during the show because it's live. And the assistant stage manager is kind of their own separate leadership identity, and that they work very much on coordinating what actually is going to be happening backstage during the rehearsal process, and then executing that during the show as well. So it's very much a team that has to be completely in sync. That's the gist of it.
And for, again, going really back to basics and explaining everything, what is a block? What does blocking mean? And what is the difference between a show that everybody sees on stage versus when it goes to tech, or when it's in previews, let's say?
So blocking, and this is across television, film, live shows, and theater, blocking is just where everyone's going to go during the show. So this actor starts center, starts their monologue, crosses stage left, crosses stage right, another actor enters. That's blocking. And when that all gets solved in the rehearsal room, and those run-throughs with blocking and scenic elements and props and things start pretty early on in the rehearsal process and then start to get tweaked. And so when you get into the tech process, the actors already know they're blocking, and instead of being on the rehearsal room floor, they're on the stage. So things can change. They need to be respaced by the director to make sure that everything looks the way that the director wants it to be. And then tech usually is about a week to 2 weeks long, depending, and the show can look very different from the final run through in the rehearsal room to when it opens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. It's chaos. Why do stage managers and some assistant stage managers wear a headpiece with mic? What is happening there?
So we use the headsets to communicate with all of the crew throughout the show, because the stage manager actually calls all of the cues throughout. So there are sequences, let's say, in a big musical where you could be calling, like in Hamilton, for example, you've got big pieces on stage that are moving. You've got a turntable, which is the round spinning piece in the middle of the floor. You've got lights changing constantly. You've got sound cues, and the stage manager's actually on headset in communication with the audio team and the lighting team and the people flying things in and out, actually saying the GO for them to do those things.
Mm-hmm. The GO.
The GO.
Do you think, I think, and everything is, now that everybody's talking about more about stereotypes and unconscious bias and all of these things, But I feel, again, personally, my perspective, that there's a little bit of echo. Stage managers are sometimes or often kind of in a bad mood. Is this? Or it's like, if you're not bringing anything useful to the table, like, don't talk to me. No.
Oh my
like
gosh.
the time is like, is that true?
Is it
Or
true?
what's the deal with the stress?
I've certainly worked with some stage managers who feel that way. I mean, and at least that's the vibe I've gotten from them. I am not that way. I learned very early when I was stage managing in college that I'm more of a, I think whoever I took a short stage management course from split stage managers into categories, and I remember one of them was the mother stage manager, who I have definitely worked with a few of those, and one of them was like the friend stage manager, and I kind of feel like I fall in that category where I've worked as an electrician, I've worked as a stagehand, I've done all of these things, and now I don't work in traditional theater very much anymore. I do like one-off live events that you're starting at the top of the day and you've got to call the show by the end of the day. So there's not really time to be rude to people. You just have to be a team player. And of course, there's moments where, I mean, I just called a very big show last night, and sure, there's moments where you're like, huh, stop talking. Because, yeah, it comes down to we're live and you can't, if you're not bringing something that's integral to the show, to the table, then you can't be talking. But the crabbiness is hilarious and definitely a stereotype.
When you say call a show, what is now that you're doing it? Is it's still online, like virtually, or how is it that working now that it's not like traditional theater? What are the differences?
So I work with a company called Little Cinema, who has an offshoot called Little Cinema Digital, which they used to do live in-person shows. For several years they were doing those, and then a few years before the pandemic started doing live Hollywood events that were immersive theater events, like for movie premieres and things. And then they pivoted to creating virtual versions of those Hollywood events. And so when I'm calling a show for them, like a movie premiere, we do have live talent on site. We have live musicians on site. We have a full crew on site. We have lighting instruments and a soundboard and all of the things you would expect to see at a live show. But we also have a whole bunch of cameras. And so everything that I call, all of the cues that I call, are broadcast. So the talent is acting, they have mics on, they have what we call in-ear mics, so they can hear my voice throughout the show and I can cue them, etc. And people across the world are actually watching it live. So it's like they're on a stage, but it's on someone's screen.
Interesting. It says over here, it sounds like a super intense job with lots of responsibilities. Oh yes, Jenny, it is. And the other perception that I have is, is it a majority of women in stage management, or that's just me in my
I feel like I have also noticed that. There are certainly a lot of men in it as well, but I have noticed more, this is all just my experience, but I have noticed more men in like Broadway stage management.
Interesting.
And like doing more traditional theater, and I see more women doing sort of more of the on-the-fly events, like fundraisers, and I feel like it might be a little bit of a logistics brain power thing. We can work like on the fly and just download things quickly into our brains.
Mhm.
But that's just my thought.
Yeah, I agree with that thought, because I was like, yeah, my experience, no men in stage management. But yeah, I've never I've never done Broadway in New York or anything, just like the tours, and even then the company manager or whatever, which is different, but still has been male, and the majority, the audio guys are male. So it's like, now that you're like in it, just compare that observation with me.
That is funny.
It says, kudos for you. I couldn't do it. Yeah, I think it's a titanic effort, and I don't think that just anybody could do it. That's why I think it's such a big deal, that sometimes I don't think that people really acknowledge what you all do, and the importance of having you on point, to execute a show or a live thing or whatever. So
I have noticed that, especially for live events where maybe we've got a week, maybe we've got 2 or 3 days, or maybe 1 day going up, as soon as you say, "Hi, I'm Sammy, I'm the stage manager," people are like, "Oh, got it. Listen to you." Sometimes in theater, yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of it, like when I was an assistant stage manager backstage. Sometimes there would be a little bit of pushback. Yeah, like what, not quite recognizing like the leadership, but it's a collaborative effort regardless. So
yeah, totally. That's another thing. It's a team effort. So I don't know, without sharing or oversharing, or keeping it profesh. Do you have any stories of things not going 100%?
oh my gosh. Well, last night, no, I mean, we had like a little glitch last night. We were live for about 2 minutes, and we had to throw up our in case of emergency card, and the actors were like, "Yeah, technical difficulties, live entertainment, folks." It was fine. I'm trying to think of specifically any other like giant fires that have happened. There was one that happened at the Old Globe while I was actually backstage. I wasn't stage managing it, but there was this huge piece of automation that had actors on it dancing, and it was supposed to be tracking, which means that the set piece is attached to a mechanism in the floor, that when the stage manager says automation go, the automation engineer presses the cue button, and then the giant piece of scenery moves. So anyways, that happened, and the giant piece of scenery with the dancing people on it stopped moving. And then I can't remember if we tracked it back off into the wings again, or if it just kind of stayed half on stage for like a solid 30 minutes. And the stage manager who was calling the show had to announce to the audience that we were having technical difficulties, which obviously the audience could see. And I think we had like an extra long intermission while we fixed that. So sometimes the problems are easily coverable, and sometimes they're definitely not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember. God, time flies. There was a tour of Billy Elliot in San Diego, Billy Elliot the musical, and usually, in theater you have your main, and then you have the the understudy or whatever. And with kids, if you have one, then you have like 5, right? Because there's kids and the laws of child, children working and all that, those things. So my voice. So there was like 5 Billies, right? And then the Billy in the show was blonde, and then there was a scene where he like flies and he's doing the sequence, and he I think sprained his ankle or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then it was like boom, 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 switch him from another Billy, and that Billy had brown hair. And it's those things that people are like, is this a shit? But people can like really tell what's happening, even though there's like, that's another guy. I don't know. Stuff like that, I think you have to be, again, on point, but then you never know how you're going to react because it's like something unexpected.
Yeah. That's 100% part of the job. And it's sometimes like, so coming from the old Globe where I worked for 5-6 years, an institution like that's been around for so long, there are all of these protocols and all of these things that are already planned out, right? Like swings, for example, just something that exists in theater because actors get sick and actors hurt themselves and actors need days off. Mm-hmm. So swings and understudies are just part of the plan. Someone breaking their ankle in the middle of the show, not part of the plan, but there are ways to be somewhat prepared. And then there are some things that happen that you're not ever going to be ready for, and it's just a matter of having this like top line, like the goal is just that the show has to go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So things will, and the other thing is that the audience, if the audience didn't know it wasn't supposed to happen that way, they probably didn't notice most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah, people.
Most of the time. So it's all about just having that mentality that the show just has to keep happening, no matter what. There was a show during the Globe where I was the assistant stage manager. I was backstage, and one of our actors came off and immediately went to the bathroom to throw up, and did so between the next 3 scenes that they were on stage for. They're a champ. I couldn't have done it. It was just like, do you want to hold the show? Lines and
then I can go, throw up.
Yeah, it was like, do you want to hold the show? And they were like, no, I'm going to go do this scene, and then I'm going to come back and vomit. Okay.
I have others, and then I want to talk about notes, because that's the other thing that I had never experienced until I was at the Globe, and those are wonderful nuggets of joy after a show.
Wait, which ones?
The notes, the show notes. So they're asking you here, Rebecca's asking, what is the path to become a stage manager? I'm a project manager. Would be interesting to understand the background from your side.
And I started in stage management. I was when I was a kid, I was like on stage and performing, and I did perform all throughout high school. And then when I went to college, it was just like, do I want to perform for the rest of my life and go to auditions constantly? Probably not. And had a conversation about my actual skill set with an advisor. And I went to a college that was we had a pretty small theater major. So I just got thrown into stage management when I was 18. Because they were like, you seem pretty organized and logistical and like a good planner. And so why don't you do this thing? And so that's what I did all through college. I started taking professional gigs in college as well, here and there. And I did a couple of internships. And that's all I've been doing since. But I have switched. A few years ago, I started moving from doing strictly traditional theater to stage managing like chamber music, orchestras,
Wow.
That was fundraisers, dinners, things like that, and then got into immersive theater stage management, which is a whole other beast, and usually is marketing some sort of IP. And now I'm doing that, but virtually. There are stage managers for every part of the entertainment industry.
That's
and I've done many of them.
It's true. Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to, it's like a business. So you have to get into every aspect of the business, really. How do you manage the risks when you start planning? Is there a way?
There are, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a broad question, but I also, at the company that I'm at now, I'm an associate producer. So I, myself and the other producers on the team, build out this schedule as soon as we possibly can when we get the creative pitch from the client about what they want. Start to look at down the road what that's going to look like, which is sort of like what a production manager does in theater. So that's the first way to mitigate risks, is to make sure you have enough time and enough staff within your budget constraints to troubleshoot all of the things that you need to have work during the show or during the broadcast, which inevitably means that you don't have enough money. So you make things work with what you can get. And sometimes, that is at risk of something going wrong because people are overworked, they're wearing too many hats, they forget to do one thing, something goes wrong during the show. But really it's like about learning every single time you do something and saying, okay, this is what went wrong. Let's make a checklist for next time. Let's add something for next time. Pre-show checklist, post-show checklists, templates for your cue sheets and templates for your backstage run sheets for the assistant stage managers, all of those things that can sort of like standardize the process for everybody involved, and saying, okay, what our audio team, we usually have 2 people on it, but this next one is going to be even bigger, so let's add a 3rd person just to manage this one part of it. And just sort of, it's very collaborative also, just everybody's insight is needed to make sure that we don't miss anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those are key words, like templates and standardizing. I think, yeah, that's the way to go. And then you just like modify as you keep going. In regards to the show notes or whatever they were called, I'm so rusty that I don't even know anymore. But that was something that I had never experienced until I went to the Globe in theater, which is the show notes or the performance notes or whatever it was. When a show ends and everybody's like, people are leaving the space and they're cleaning and, everything is being turned off and everything, there's a series of notes, and that people that run the theater, like the space itself, like the house manager, that's called, say what's on their side of things. Like, again, there's vomit in aisle, whatever, row.
It's a grocery store. No.
Can someone come and clean it up and things like that, right? Or there's like a rocking chair that's loose. Can you come and fix it? And all these wonderful things that you really don't think about, when it comes to a show. People just think about the show, right? And the actors, and that's it. Like, no one else does it, right? And the actors, that's it. No one builds a stage, or I don't know. Everything is like so magical, right? And I guess that's why they say like the magic of ... But I remember for a particular show, because I don't know, Sammy, like me being us being in a border and me being Mexican, obviously I always compare the behaviors between cultures. And in Mexico, it's not really unless you go to Mexico City, but still in Mexico, it's not for you to like go get alcohol during intermission, and coming back kind of sort of like tipsy or hammered or whatever. I think we're headed over there, but not yet. So over here, like the US loves their drinks, their snacks. I don't know how that's gonna go coming back, but so it was this show that we were working on where people were very nostalgic, and it was very I don't know, it was a musical and everybody was very excited, and there was an thing where an audience member fell asleep at the beginning of the second act, but passed out really. And it was a group of people, and they just left this person there. And this person was still asleep after the show ended, and everybody was like, is it breathe? Are they breathing? You know, like how is it? And you know, those marvelous notes that happen when, again, the thing about the actor going and vomiting, that goes in the notes. If you're using puppets or some sort of props, that, you know, their arm falls off and you need another one. And all these things that are behind the scenes glories. How do you manage what to say and what's important and then not? I think for me, I would just go off and be a total goof making these notes instead of being serious and being like, ABC, we need this. I would be like, ha ha ha, this person was vomiting, and then the other, and yo-yo, you know, I don't know. So how do you handle that? And with the experience, how do you keep what is it, like editing, you know, yourself in order to make it useful for everybody?
Yeah. Well, that also depends on the theater you're working at. I think you're talking about like a performance report.
Performance report. Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Well, I wasn't sure if you were talking about tech notes, because tech notes is something you do nightly after every preview and after every night of tech, like talking about what needs to be changed for the next day. But performance reports are definitely, actually, it depends on the show. Sometimes the stage managers sit together after the show and try to think of something fun to add in there. More often than not, you're like, did we already use the word lovely? Oh, we said that 2 days ago. Okay, tonight it was zippy. You know, it just got thesaurus.com open. No, it also just depends on the stage manager. I've read hilarious performance reports, but and it's just also sometimes the theaters ask for different things. Like some theaters want to know exactly what temperature it was in the house every single night, and because they take that data and apply it, like they figure out whether the audience was more interested if it was too hot in the space or all those things. Other theaters are a lot more lax about it, and they're like, just write down what happened. I think for a longer show run, they're more useful because you're really starting to look, especially when you're doing a longer show run as a stage manager, the director kind of hands their creative reins over to you when the show opens. And so because you've been there for all of rehearsals, and you've sort of crafted what the show is going to ultimately look like for everybody, you're sort of the only person who can keep it on track. And so if this actor, for instance, if they have a scene where they're supposed to get pretty angry or emotional, and you've choreographed it out with the fight choreographer that they're supposed to, say, smack the table with their hand out of anger, the actor maybe gets like super emotional on stage and hits the table really hard, and it starts to feel a little bit more violent than the vibe that the director originally went for. And so that's why you're there to kind of be like, so tonight, you know, we got a little bit extreme in this scene, you know, tomorrow we'll pull it back. Just things like that. And it's just really a way of like, again, going back to standard practices. Sometimes you're sitting there trying to think of what to put in the performance report, but that's kind of a good thing because that means that the show went as expected. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's noting anything from like, this prop broke tonight, or we need more food for tomorrow, etc., to the emotional flow of the show as well.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot to keep track of, especially on a longer run when, it can seem like, okay, day in, day out, 8 times a week for however many weeks, or on Broadway, however many years. A stage manager starts to just, kind of be like, it feels like you're one with the show at some point.
Yeah, totally. That's
At
why.
least in the sense of stage management, like in a theater, like with the stage.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's so important. What I know in the beginning that we were talking about, that you said you felt like the imposter syndrome a little bit. What would your advice be now that we're kind of sort of going back? Because I did notice, we follow each other on social media, and I did notice, when you started working in this company, people were like, how do I get a job? How do I do it, or whatever? And sometimes when everybody's trying to float, it's hard to. I know that if it was up to you, you would like bring everybody along, but sometimes that's not possible.
Yeah.
What is your advice for other SMs out there that still are, without a gig or haven't found anything yet?
Yeah, it is really tough. I have people reach out to me too, like privately, and all I can say, because I don't run the company, and because I myself, like, I didn't apply for this job. I had worked with some of these producers before on very similar work, and they called me and were like, can we have you in LA for 3 weeks? And I said, sure. Work? What? And now for 9 months I've been working full time because the work has just continued. And that's how it works in this industry a lot. Like, you're not applying to be a stage manager necessarily. People know who you are. But I've been in that position so many times where I'm seeing that other people are working and I can't figure out where they're finding these jobs or how to reach out to these companies. So what I always just tell people is, like, if you want to be involved, just send your resume, because I'm not up to date with what everyone else has been doing, and what everybody's multiple skill sets are. So send it, and that's how a lot of the networking happens. It's just, if I, or if anybody, like, that's how I got hired. It was like, these producers just have a bank of people that they've worked with, and you can randomly select and say, oh my gosh, this person would be perfect for this job.
Mm-hmm.
And then also a lot of companies, at least like more like agencies that do more of like a marketing type theater or corporate theater, are posting all over job sites and all over Facebook. Those are hiring big time right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wish I could give everybody. I just wish I could bring everyone to work with me. And sometimes also it's like just getting your foot in the door in a position you don't like, maybe as a production assistant, but so you spend 3 days being a production assistant, and then maybe on the next event you're like a production coordinator or something like that. You share your interests and you can get brought farther onto the team. But this industry is rough.
It's hard. It's very hard. Like, without a pandemic, it was already hard. So
yeah.
Now it's like, oh my God, how is this gonna work? But yeah, I think we need.
I used to work as an electrician at the Oak Globe. I've done all of the things because I just wanted to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
So, gotta set your ego aside sometimes.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, for sure. If you want to do something and be a part of a project, yeah, for sure. And it's hard sometimes. It's hard. I think in every industry, but in this one, that's so, flashy, ego-driven, stuff like that, or it caresses the ego, let's say, not necessarily ego-driven, but yeah, sometimes it's not easy to, maybe not raise your hand all the time or something like that. what was I going to say to you? I was going to say something and I forgot. So the show, the name of the show is from another, the podcast is From Another Zero. So it's just, you don't just start, when you start over, you just don't start from zero. It has to be from another zero because you already have this experience and this not previous knowledge of, life. So what would be your other zero or zeros?
Can my other zero be what everyone else's other zero was and be the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the thing is how you handled it.
Well, it was really like I said, I was unemployed like everybody else was for a few months, and then I think I did do an online, like a Zoom kids show for several months, and but really getting to get onboarded to this company full time in a capacity that I've never run a broadcast studio. I've never really worked with a camera crew necessarily in theater before, because we always just had audiences walking through our experiences or sitting in seats watching the experiences that I was stage managing. So just things like that, sort of being thrown in and people being told, this is Sammy, she's the stage manager. And I'm like, yep, yes, I am.
What is next?
Is, in all of these other things for years, doing like musicals and plays and some events here and there. And then, being told, okay, we're broadcasting this humongous, interactive, clickable, immersive event to the world in a week. What are you bringing to the table? And I was like, I know how to call cues and I know how to work with talent. And so it was really like rebranding a little bit internally for me to be like, how do I take all of these things that I already know how to do and then change them and morph them to what this medium necessitates, I guess. Which is, it's been a trip and I haven't figured it all out yet.
Well, I think that's the best part of it all, right? Just figuring it out as you go and having the opportunity to rebrand yourself, and based on all this experience and know-how that you have, and that you are there now, and you started a certain way and that kind of kept growing, and now you're in this capacity that not even that it was, I would feel, because something similar happened to me last year where it's not the pandemic anymore. Like, you didn't feel that it was an experience that you didn't have, before. And the pandemic kind of was something that brought you there because of it all. But at the same time, it's something that you had not experienced. So that's really cool. And, and I think that's what it's about. Also with From Another Zero, we talk about causes and small businesses to give a shout out, for people to support. I think I know what one of your causes is going to be. I hope I'm right. And if I'm not, I'm going to bring it up for you. But yeah, can you share like a mom and pop or a small business to support and a cause or charity that we can learn about?
Yes. And also, yes, I see learning new skills out of necessity that will help you in the future. Yes. Doing that currently. Every single time I run an event, there's something else that gets thrown in that I've never dealt with before. And pretending with confidence is key.
Yeah, I think so too.
And having team members, I will say also having a team around you that is like supportive and also probably has never dealt with some of these things as well. So just collaborating and having people who are willing to work through all of this together. And also, again, putting the ego aside is like such an important part of if you have no idea what you're doing, you can't be rude about it. A cause, I don't think I thought of a mom and pop, but I need to. But the cause that immediately came to mind, and I know you're going to know what it is this dog rescue that I also volunteer for. It was another of the silver linings that came out of 2020, which is now a trigger word for me. 2020, I'm like,
2020 is? I was like,
2020. But another silver lining of 2020 is that I was introduced to this rescue called Mutt Scouts. That is primarily pulling dogs off of the streets of Mexico. There's so many strays. There's a lot of viruses that are passed around, unfortunately, between the dogs down there as well. And that is something that we do deal with. But primarily, I mean, we're down there pulling moms with big litters of puppies and dogs that have never been given a chance. And the rescue has like sort of a hub in LA and then a hub in San Diego. And so I was introduced to them because I decided I want to foster dogs during the pandemic. And then they were like, we also need help, by the way, if you want to volunteer and come hang out with our dogs and feed them and clean up and all those things. And now, because I'm spending so much time in LA, the rest of the team is in LA. So I've started to coordinate dogs and get them adopted, and it's so rewarding. It doesn't feel like volunteering. It just feels like something that I have always wanted to do. And the reason I want to shout them out also is because I think that people, and that myself included, they want to be helpful and go like volunteer at the Humane Society or these bigger, more established like shelters and stuff. Rescues need help all of the time. So Mutt Scouts always needs people to foster their dogs, to adopt their dogs, to go to the kennel and feed dogs. I mean, you can get all the dog time you want. And I didn't know about this until 2020. But Mutt Scouts I pulled, I think, over 800 dogs.
Oh my God.
Off the streets last year and got them into homes.
Oh, yay!
So they're the best. Shout out.
So Mutt Scouts, perfect, in San Diego and LA. Check them out for sure.
Yes. And Mexico. I mean, our vets, their first stop is the vet in Mexico. And then they have to cross the border. And the people who actually go out there, I mean, there are videos of people in the dead of night, like going to rescue these dogs out of the trash heaps and things like that. Just those people are, what is this episode called? Angels?
Yeah.
It's the angels we call dog rescuers. They're so good.
Yeah, there's many people that that just are, I saw this dog on the street and I just picked it up, doesn't belong to anybody. If not, who can foster it? And then all the communication starts like on Facebook and the Facebook groups and all these things are, oh, there's a GoFundMe, or here's my Venmo because I need to, I don't know, get eye drops or food or all these things. And it's wonderful. A lot of people really pitch in, and even like sharing. My feed is also full of dogs and kittens and puppies, and because I'm like almost close to a sanctuary as you can get. And I live in a small space, and having animals is kind of hard, but we still have them, and we try to help as much as we can. And I think It's a big deal. It's a big deal because there's a lot of animals out there. And also during the pandemic, people just were like, I can't take care of my pet anymore. Bye. You know.
Oh, don't get me started on the puppy people.
Yeah. Puppy people. Exactly. Exactly.
Are now returning their puppies. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. But yeah, Mutt Scouts is on Instagram. I think just at Mutt Scouts, and they share all the dogs that they pull constantly, and they're we always in need because there are a lot of these dogs that are like hit by cars or again that have viruses that need to be taken care of. I've been fostering a dog for the last 6 months who's just been one medical emergency after another. But they're, I don't know, I'm like, dogs are better than people, really, at heart.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aww. And any mom and pop shops, any like little restaurant or like takeout or anything?
Yes, I did think of the one that I want to say, which is this place in San Diego. It's over on El Cajon Boulevard. It's called Alforon, Alforon, and it is Lebanese, like Mediterranean food, and it's the best. We used to go there all the time. I brought parents and friends, and then the pandemic happened, and it was like, I need to go to Alforon just because I need to give them money so that they're still here after the pandemic. And they are, and they're delicious, and it's the best. It's just one of like my favorite authentic cuisines in San Diego. It's amazing.
Alforon.
Mm-hmm.
And El Cajon Boulevard for all the locals, and then again, Mutt Scouts in LA and San Diego. Check them out and give them all the love. This is wonderful. I love it. So anything else that's coming for you or that you would like to experience now? I can't believe that we're in the middle of 2021. It's just like,
I know, it's insane.
I can't. I can't. Being in this company or seeing as theater comes back, or how do you kind of sort of, I know it's a heavy question, but like envision finishing the year?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that where I'm at with like doing immersive experiences for people, I would love to go back to, funneling 3,000 people through an immersive experience rather than just broadcasting it via camera to the 3,000 people. It's a lot of the same things, but I'm all about just like working together and seeing people, the audience reaction and feeling that like vibe that you can only get with live theater. So I miss that so badly, even though I've been working for the last 9 to 10 months. I feel very lucky, but I just can't wait to be back in like that space that feels so energized because the curtain's going up and they're about to walk in. I think that events are going to be hybrid.
Yep.
So like, picture a Coachella where Coachella happens and you get exclusive tickets to actually be there, but you can also get exclusive tickets to tune in your living room. I think Sundance has already announced that they're going to do some version of that. So I think things will be hybrid, at least in the next several months, but I just can't wait to get back to actually presenting something to an audience that I know is there and I can see their faces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's hopefully where we're at by the end of this.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. And just like, again, sharing experiences and stories and laughing about it instead of like, how am I going to survive or what am I going to do now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is super quick, but one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on, and I did 6 of these Globe for All tours with the Old Globe, which is where you and I worked together primarily, I feel like, on those tours, where we were bringing full on Old Globe, realized, designed, directed Shakespeare out into the community in San Diego for free to folks who probably wouldn't have been able to come over to the theater. And the being able to, and the way that was just like, we would get there and there'd be a gymnasium and we'd have folding chairs and we would set up the folding chairs and lay a square of tape on the floor, bring in our set pieces from our truck, perform, share a meal together, and then leave. And to just be there watching the audience watch your production and seeing their faces and hearing what they have to say afterward, just really, like, it changed me the first time I did that, which was 7-8 years ago, to really be like, oh, this is like what people go through something every single time that they sit through a piece of live art.
Yep.
Like, especially if they are not used to having that available to them. Like, and so that changed my perspective on what my purpose is in the industry. And even though I'm working now and we have, like, you know, like here on StreamYard where we have chat coming in, I know people are there. It's not the same thing as curtain goes up, there are their faces right there. They're experiencing it in real time in the same room and sharing that energy together. So that's my soapbox.
I love it. And there's a picture. I don't know. I'm going to share it. I'm going to look for it and I'm going to share it. There's a picture because Sammy says that she's been on 6 Globe for All tours. You've been on all of them.
I missed the 12th night.
Oh,
but
that
I
was
did do 2 of the spring tours.
Gotcha. There's the last one, the 2019 one. And I think it was our last performance, and there was like this outdoor area because it was a gym and it was so hot that we had to have, again, behind the scenes, it was so hot that we had to have all the doors open because it was like hot. And there was like this back door that went to like an alley that had like a little parking. And then there was a park in San Isidro. And there was I think the show was going. The show was going. And I was sitting because you have to see like people and see if you're doing PR, if press is arriving or who's arriving, or if they're taking pictures, they can't, and stuff like that, right? So I was there, and then I looked to my left, and that's the outside area, and there was like this little like rail, and you were there, and it was kind of like you were taking a break because again, after 12 performances or whatever on tour, you're just like, I want to die, right? And there was an actress also that wasn't performing at that moment, and she was like in costume, right? And she's on the rail too, talking to you, and you're both talking. And I love that like frame, and I just like click, and I took the picture, and I was like, it's such a that's how like touring life, like with that type of theater in the community looks like, right? She's like on full costume, like, you know, Shakespeare attire, and she's just like that, and you guys are talking, and I'm like, I
gotta remember to put gas in one of these vans after this conversation.
Exactly. You're like, I have to do this and I have to do that, right? So
oh my gosh, I want the picture.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for it, and I'm gonna post it on Facebook and tag you so you can see it. But yeah, I that's one of the ones that I remember, because again, it was the last one. But yeah, I think that's one of the highlights of where we met and where we work together, because it's so rewarding and challenging at the same time. That yeah, it's like a whole college degree right there. I feel working on those. But yeah, I want to thank you for trusting me with From Another Zero and, coming on board and talking about your life, your soapbox, your soapbox with us and your experience. And I'm really glad that you are working and that you can, take from more experiences and learn different things. And hopefully we will coincide again, hopefully.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Thank you for having me. This podcast is so awesome. I listened to some of my friends already on season 1.
I tried to, I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it with Eric King Louis, that I try to bring a little bit of everything and everybody to the mix, and I didn't want it to be like Alejandra and friends, but at the same time, people are so awesome and they do so many cool things that you're like, well, why not, right? Since there's people listening.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people listening everywhere, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna also put it on the episode notes. There's a group on Facebook that's called, I think it's the Year of the Stage Manager. Well, I was reaching out to talk to more angels. They referred me to that group. I'm gonna put it also on the episode notes. I think it's the Year of the Stage Manager,
Yep.
and that's like where stage managers from everywhere kind of go in, and it's not even about looking for gigs or anything. It's about, hey, what terminology are you using, to call this, and it's like about just learning from each other and each other's experiences, like going back. So I thought that was really cool, and that was something that came out from this. So, again, thank you. And
it is cool. And there are
things
on that group that are like super, super useful. And it's a great place to hang out and meet other people as well.
Yeah, totally. And thank you also for what you do for all these doggies, because just one person, making the difference. No, I'm like, for reals. And I saw the before and after of this dog that you're fostering, and I'm just like, So yeah, thank you so much. I wish you like the best, and we will keep in touch for sure.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you too. Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you, everybody. Remember that here we just don't start from zero. We start from another zero. Bye.